Hello there, and welcome back to Roll on the Adventure. We're currently creating a brand new role-playing game. Roll on, 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 roll on,
Adventure.
Cool. So
Better, worse?
we're currently working on a. What's that?
Better or worse than the last episode?
I don't know if it was worse. It's hard to tell when you're just chanting "roll on" and you can't really hear everyone else.
We'll fix it in post.
We're not going to fix it in post. I don't have time. Right. So yeah, we are creating a game in which a bunch of races come together to guard some sort of evil god thing, all the time kind of backstabbing each other and trying to get ahead. So we haven't actually come up with a name and a proper tagline for that. We're going to do that shortly. But first, I think we should go through some scenes that we'd like to see, things you'd like to see happen in the game. So I'll go first as an example. For me, I just like the idea of the elven and High King taking to one side the human chieftain and sort of making it sort of backhand deal, so that he'll back them up on this adventure if in return for help on the next one. Because the next thing is going to be very, very beneficial for the elves. So he kind of wants to make sure that succeeds, and it's them trying to negotiate in character. I think that would be quite nice to see.
Nice.
Simple but effective one. I'd quite like to just see the dwarven low king slamming his fist into the table, refusing to invest good weapons and armors into another of the humans' boondoggles or ridiculous schemes.
Awesome.
This primeval deity, a description of its prison and perhaps the leaders of the tribes just not taunting, but examining and inspecting this ancient thing.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I quite like the slightly related one. I quite like the idea of all of the races haggling and arguing about the amount of resources to devote to keeping this thing sealed with some, vast, complicated-looking temple. There's somewhere unseen behind it. There's just kind of tendrils of evil escaping because it's become just some random bureaucratic thing than something people are actually paying attention.
Yeah.
How much evil is too much evil?
Yeah. You got players that are all focused on winning the game for themselves and kind of forgotten there's a actual loss condition.
So I'm feeling like the missions are largely off camera from that. Is that what we're thinking?
It'd probably take a lot of time to do them if there's actual kind of specific, here's a couple of dudes down in a dungeon doing things. That has the danger to suddenly take a lot of time and mechanical focus.
You're detracting too much from the bureaucracy.
So I'm thinking, people play cards, right? And these cards allow things to happen. So I'm wondering if certain people play. So each adventure that we send the heroes off on, not the leaders, requires resources, and it also requires some sort of luck sort of cards. And it's whether the luck cards outweigh the bad luck cards. Sorry, if the resource cards outweigh the luck cards. What do you guys?
Yeah, so everyone has to put points in, and then you do a random drawing to determine how hard it was.
Well,
is that the kind of effect you're?
I think everyone puts 2 cards in, and they can be luck cards, and they can be resource cards.
Okay.
And the idea is to try have as many resource cards as possible.
Assuming you want the mission to actually succeed.
Well, okay, so you're building a stockpile, right, of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And so each round you get to keep 1 card. You also get to play 2 cards. So you put one in your victory pile. And normally, say red cards take off your victory points, whereas the resource cards add to it. But there's certain effects, like you could have your a race card that makes you more likely. Means that each heart you play counts as gives you 1 extra point. So they're not as bad for you. That's what I'm wondering.
I think that this is quite specific. What's the underlying thing that we're trying to achieve? So we're trying to enable the players to influence these quests, these adventures, these sort of structures. So resources would be weapons, and what else?
I don't know if we should necessarily name them. I'll let people name them for their game.
But yeah, what do they abstract more than weapons? What else do they?
The actual people you're sending. If you're sending your best warriors or just some
people.
Village kids,
food, transport, training.
Food. Yeah, whether you're just sending 2 shepherds with a pointy stick or 20 of your best soldiers and a wagon train to keep them equipped.
And the luck cards, they sort of they're abstract for
sort of dangers. So do the heroes run into monsters, that kind of thing. And based on the total of the number of luck cards, the more things that are in the way, and over a certain amount, the evil itself might start putting tendrils in.
So the luck cards are actually more like bad luck cards, aren't they?
Yeah, they're fate more than luck is kind of what I was getting at.
Bad stuff that happens on the way.
Yeah, what do people think?
So perhaps the players share these, not in their hand, but the deck for these cards is the same deck as the evil entity has. So the more evil stuff people play, the less evil stuff the evil deity is
that's kind of
going to have accessible. So perhaps we could say that I will call it the devil just for simplicity's sake. So the devil, if the devil plays a monster, it's twice as effective or 1.5 times as effective as than the players. So the players need to put obstacles and monsters into the pot so that the devil doesn't have any chances to use them.
I'm thinking that the players, the evil, each time there's a mission, the evil draws from the player's discards.
Ooh,
okay.
Yeah.
And so it has it the other way around. So resources don't mean anything to it, but fates do, and it's its fate total at the end is what's important.
My question in this is why would people put obstacles to one another?
Because if they put obstacles down, that means the evil doesn't get to claim them as victory points. So if you've got a red 10, right? Then if you play that or put it in your victory point pile, the evil can't draw that out of the discards and claim it. Or you could discard it and be selfish and hope. Does that make sense?
I'm not really sure the whole victory point thing.
Okay. I think what we should do is go with what we said we were going to do and do the sort of one-lines game pitch now. So what's the game going to be about? Sorry for suddenly changing tack on you, but we did say we were going to do this, and I got really distracted.
Fantasy UN in a post-Dawn War crisis.
So post-Dawn War crisis.
Fantasy United Nations in a post-Dawn War crisis.
Yeah.
Nay, nay.
So how do we? Yeah. So I don't know. Like, how would we do? So something like after the first war in heaven, especially say first, or war in the heavens or something like that. A group of tribes are tasked with the protection and sealing. Oh, sorry, I don't know, guardianship of the first evil.
That's probably briefer.
Yeah.
Yep. Or of their ancient foe or something.
Safekeeping.
The ancient foe of their gods. I think saying ancient foe of their gods is probably a good thing.
Because that gives a bit more flexibility of it might not necessarily actually.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Go
plenty
that
of
route.
scope for doing fun things like, oh, they're not really evil, just misunderstood, which can be terrible.
Yeah, I like that.
So, yeah, we should probably be writing this down. Okay, so after the first war in heaven, a group of disparate peoples, or a coalition of disparate peoples, are charged with the guardianship of the first evil, or sorry, the ancient foe of their gods.
Going to be an dickish thesaurus here and say wardenship of an ancient evil.
I don't think we should use ancient.
Oh, no, because
I
it's
think,
a new
I think
evil,
fallen.
or the nemesis of the gods. But I think wardenship implies more that they're charged with safekeeping and keeping it locked away rather than protecting it from anything.
Yeah,
Rather than actively doing it.
I think if we replace nemesis with fallen foe, I think that
Yeah.
for fallen foe, it's an evil deity mostly made of falafel. I mean,
And also, if it's supposed to be a new world, then yeah, there's a lot more scope
Yeah.
for the gods make.
Nemesis seems like they might have been, for me, feels like they were sort of created to be that. That's kind of how I always.
Yeah.
I know it's not. Going back to the Greek, it's not really. Nemesis. It wasn't created to hunt someone down. It's just what they were. But it's the more modern usage. It tends to be, something created. So I think. Are people happy with that? Any changes people would like to make?
No, I'm alright, I think.
Yeah, same.
Cool, Chris.
No, yeah, that seems to cover the base. No, it seems to cover all the
Cool.
bases.
And what we're going to call the game?
Primordia.
Primordia. Do you have any advances on Primordia?
I can't top that. I cannot top that.
It's going to be hard to top, yeah. I quite like Primordia. Chris?
Yeah. No, yeah, because we don't have any specific world setting,
Yeah.
so again, that works. well.
Okay, so yes, we have Primordia. After the first war in heaven, a coalition of disparate peoples are charged with wardenship over the fallen foe of their gods.
Sounds awesome.
Great. And just adjusting things. Make sure I've got everything written down. Cool. So the sort of structure of a session. So we're going to have that first introduction, which is, I'm thinking, should always be in front of the prison of the fallen.
Yeah.
And so it's these people in front of the prison of the fallen, sort of introducing themselves. At this point, if people do have like a face card and a face down one, are people happy with that? Do you think people think that's good?
So, because this is going to be basically when you say, I am the dwarves, we are a proud people of Master Forges.
Yeah.
You see who you are and what your shtick
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so we've got the intro scene, which is going to be the sort of first bit. And then I'm thinking then voting for the first leader of the council.
Yeah, this is going to be where all of the starting rules and admin stuff.
Yeah.
We can suggest that, you know, the player who's more familiar with this can be first and just, you know, as a facilitator.
Yeah.
Just
The facilitator goes first, introduces themselves and their race, and, you know, says a little bit about the bits of the world that they are connected to by the face-up card that they've got. What do you think?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we do the face card
good.
drawing at the beginning. I think then it's going to be a case of each person takes one face up, one face down, which is sort of like their obvious objective and their sort of hidden objective.
Okay.
So I'm thinking it'll be sort of if you've got a jack there, like something like if you've got a jack, you get an extra point in your victory pile every time a mission comes up like if it's a black one, if it comes up in favor of resources, and if it's a red one, if it comes up in favor of fate. So you get like one per mission. The queen is possibly one for every card somewhere. I don't know, every card of that color in the evils victory pile. You get a point, and the king, you get a victory point for every card that you put in. Does that make sense? So if you're queen, you want people to be discarding cards of that suit. And so yeah, like you have, because you have influence over it, and also with the king, if you can claim it. So jacks aren't quite as good though in that case, unless we're doing a mission between every council. If we're doing a mission between every council, then we're going through cards at quite the rate. What do you guys think?
I think we're starting something quite, you know, specific right now. I'm not sure that I understand what you have in mind, and you.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Like I feel that you're describing something you have in mind, but I'm not sharing your vision.
That's fine. I've probably just not explained it very well.
Okay, so let's go back to the basics. So there are how many victory piles?
There's one for everybody, and like a shared one for the evil.
Okay.
And if the evil beats everybody, everybody loses.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so, what you're suggesting is then, if you're holding on to a queen as your objective, you then want to be piling your best resources into the enemy pile.
Basically, become or convincing other people to.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't get to claim them anyway. You don't necessarily know what other people have got, so it's going to be quite a talky game. King is quite straightforward, but people might. I think maybe you only get to claim cards into your victory pile if the mission succeeds. I don't know.
So you bet the resources, and depending on if the mission succeeds, you discard them all together, or you put them into your victory pile. Am I understanding this correctly?
I think so. Well, that's kind of where I'm going with this. I don't know if that's
I think I'm starting to follow where you're headed, yeah.
So each person has a victory pile and two face cards, one of which people can see, one of which people can't. And that basically those two cards make up your race. And what's in your victory pile kind of makes up what you've achieved.
Your points, as it were.
Yeah. And you kind of bet those on missions. So
what does determine the outcome of a mission?
I think the outcome of a mission is determined by the balance of red and black cards.
I like that.
Would poker hands apply any kind of modifier to it? So say you accidentally create a straight in the enemy pile. suddenly all of his resources are bumped up by a small amount?
I don't know. I think that might be over complex.
Okay.
I liked the idea as something else to kind of aim for / watch out for. I don't know how practical it will be in actual play, but I do kind of like the idea of, oh, we've done this really easily. Oh shit, he's got a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or we've discarded that. Crap, something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
So it's just the actual practicality of it.
I think that
Yes,
I sort of have a might go. So, for example, you have the numbers from 1 to 10, and basically you commit these, and you don't really know if the other players will play
They're good cards.
red cards or black cards, and perhaps what I'm thinking is that straights, flushes, and other poker combinations just give a set thing. So it doesn't matter how many red, black cards are in a sequence if it's a straight or a flush.
So you're trying to avoid straights and flushes, or are we just ignoring straights and flushes? Sorry, I didn't quite follow you there.
No, so for example, we could say that straights always means victory, and triples always means failure, regardless of how many red or black cards are there. So
It does scale with the number of players, is my thought there.
I think this is an issue with almost every other thing.
Yeah, true. I mean, it is. I'm just.
It's not so bad if things like poker hands apply benefits to both sides. So say you manage to orchestrate with another player that you are sort of building a straight together, and so if a straight appears in the enemy's pile by accident or by design, the two cancel each other out functionally. So like numerically they apply the same bonus.
Okay. Right. So I'm thinking everybody gets a hand of 5 cards, like each round, right? You draw up to 5. Does that make sense? So, start of the game, you draw up to 5. You pick one card that's your bet. So if you win, then you get to put that card in your the points from that card in your victory pile. Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on.
And if it's red, you get to take nothing. Or it's red, you get to take something. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, I've just got completely lost my train of thought again. So you got one card that's your bet, one card that's your contribution to the mission, and one card that goes in the enemy pile. Right?
Isn't your card? Isn't your bet your contribution?
No, I think they should be separate. So that way you can either choose to aid what's going on or claim the good cards for yourself. Does that make sense?
So one path to victory would potentially be trying to not actually play good contributing cards.
But have the mission just scraped by
yourself. You hope, because everyone else throws in.
Yeah, that's basically it.
What if one of the face cards, say the Jack, because you didn't seem overly happy with the win condition you provided for the Jack earlier on, what if that contributes some nominal amount of points to you if you lose against the evil?
If you lose a so if you lose a card of that suit.
No, if you lose or if the entire mission or if the entire crisis fails,
mission fails.
So if the mission fails, and if you bet a card of that suit and lose, you still get points as a Jack. That's what I'm thinking.
Not a lot of points, I wouldn't say, but some, just to
it's not as bad for you. as
Yeah,
it might be
just to
for other
make
people.
give you that little edge of treachery still.
Yeah.
It's pretty much I'm going to sit this round out and gain some points. You guys do whatever.
Yeah. But obviously, you don't necessarily want to tell people that because you could bet a good card. Also, they might just refuse to play any good cards because then things go a bit wrong, and the evil gets to claim a card, like an extra card from the discard pile.
Well, are these cards going to be played face up or face down?
I think that your bet should be played face. Your bet should be played face down. I think everything face down originally, because I think the idea is with the resources that if you shuffle them, people don't necessarily know who's letting the side down.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's not great on the
That makes a
fiction,
lot of sense.
but I think it makes the game better.
Yeah, so you can reveal them all at once, but you make the commitment before you know what everybody else
But
played.
people do get to see what you won. Like, they get to see what your bet was, and they also get to see the total of the discards as well. Or do you reckon people shouldn't see what your bet was? The problem with that is that we can't shuffle the bet cards back into the pile.
Yeah.
And that which sort of winnows out the number of cards, which means
You could just flip them over at the end to reveal what you bet.
you could,
When
when you win or lose, just when you win, actually, might be.
Yeah.
You don't get to see the person's bet if they lose.
Yep.
Yep,
So
that sounds exciting story-wise as well.
you talk about the mission. You decide what you're going to do, like in the fiction, and then the person then you play your cards, and you do your double dealing, and then you play your cards, and then the council head for this round kind of sets the scene. People says what's going on. People say what the heroes of their race are doing, and then you play. They start playing the cards out for things going right and things going wrong.
Yeah.
And if it's more red cards than black cards, then people lose their bets, and the evil takes 2 cards from the discards. Whereas if there's more or equal black cards, then people claim their bet, and the evil only takes 1 from the discards. What do you guys think? And the idea is that you need to have more victory points than the evil at the end, or at least one of you does.
I think that for this game, we're going to have much more concrete feedback after the first playthrough, and because the numbers I'm struggling right now. I don't know if 2 is too much or 1 is too little or thing like that. But I think we'll reiterate a lot after the first playtest.
I'm feeling this is more like a 2-hour game, so hopefully we'll get 2 sessions of it in the playtest time. That's where I'm coming from here anyway. What do you all think?
Yeah, this is a lot crunchier than the last one. So yeah, we should at least be able to. If something is horribly wrong with the numbers, it'll probably be fairly obvious quite early on.
I'm kind of liking this. So I think now, do we want to take a break and go do a bit of maths and come back, or do you want to keep going?
I've got one other thought, just to sort of give it a bit of narrative weight. Were we talking before? Remind me about having randomized situations, randomized missions.
Oh yes, I think each card should have like a sort of tag word to it.
Reason why I asked.
So each suit represents an element, like some concept
or a season.
Oh yeah,
that could work.
Yeah,
but I think the idea is that everybody should fill in this table of so there's a table of like, I don't know, are aces face cards in this? I don't think they are they?
No,
Yeah.
we could say that we are, and we have more options.
The other thing is what happens when face cards are played. But either way, I think each card, so each suit's got something attached to it. So it could be seasons, it could be whatever, and that's probably game specific.
Yeah, we mentioned elements.
And then you fill in your table, and everyone puts down like a item in each box, just of a sort of an item, a situation. So like 2 of clubs could be a temple. And that means that temples are now sort of come up in that story. And if if the evil claims something, that means it's built a temple.
Or that it's destroyed a temple.
That's also true. Yeah, I mean, I think that could be a cool idea.
Okay, I quite like this.
Yeah, and this leaves interpretation quite open for the game. You know, the people actually playing, so they have more freedom in this respect.
So it feels like the game is kind of a bit abstracted away from the story. The story doesn't really drive the numbers. And I'm kind of happy with playing a sort of PvP game which then has some fiction sort of strung on to it. Like it's also a guide to fiction rather than the fiction being a guide to the point scoring and stuff.
We have tied the outcomes to the abstract game.
Yeah.
To the card playing. So basically, it's free form. It's really loose. Yeah. But in the end, if the results are positive or negative, is based on the skills of bluffing and the whole playing ability of the participants.
Yeah. So it's the way that the story impacts the game mechanics sort of side is more indirectly. It's like in Werewolf when people are playing out their character, things like that. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, so
like my character couldn't possibly do this. I wouldn't betray a fellow villager. And the more convincing you can be, you could go, if you're trying to convince the Elven King of something, it's like, remember that mission that went really well? Of course that was me that played that 10 of clubs when it may or may not have been. That kind of thing. I think that could kind of
I can see a lot of sort of narrative coming out of the game rather than being sort of essential to the gameplay. So it's sort of on the back of the sort of current council leader to really sell what's been played numerically rather than sort of the numbers sort of contributing story or anything like that. But I like it. I like it a lot.
I'll say I'm kind of feeling that I'd like the narrative side to feed more back in, but I don't know if I can think of a cool way of doing it without wrecking what we've already got.
So, I mean,
without it being forced.
Spitball a few ideas for the table then. Let's say I'm going to arbitrarily allocate diamonds as summer or fire, and then sort of the table would then be filled with sort of militaristic and sort of very fire-oriented stuff, like say the 3 of diamonds would be a troop of men-at-arms or a militia, and say 6 would be a barracks full of men, and if it falls into the evil's hands, then you've suddenly got a rogue group of bandits or a fallen barracks or something like that. So I like the idea that it sort of falls to the council leader to string this together into a narrative with good, strong prompts.
Yeah,
you'll end up with like Joel says, a lot of narrative prompts of this is stuff that's going on. Work it into the fiction. You could, in theory, if you wanted to, just ignore it and make something bland up. You've got all of these plot hooks provided.
Yeah, why not use them?
Them.
They're optional, but they're for inspiration more than anything.
Yeah, but that kind of thing is always really good for freeform fiction, because otherwise you just go, because you can do anything.
It's
there's nothing to go
yeah, it's a
into.
skill trying to do that. There's quite a lot of like improv exercises, things like that just specialize in doing that. There's a really interesting one where you just point at something and you just say any word that's not the thing. And it's surprisingly difficult to keep doing. And the idea is you just practice it until you're just doing it. You can do like a few of them and then you keep going and do it faster. And it's really interesting how rusty you get at it as well. I've not done it in a while, and like every time I leave it, I end up coming back to it and I've forgotten how to do it, basically.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Yeah, back to Primordia. I do. That name's really growing on me. At the beginning, I was just like, that is so cheesy, but it is really growing on me now.
Yeah, it's very evocative, I think.
Yeah. I'm also thinking, because this is like a primordial world, I'm thinking that a good way to tell the story of this would be to mark down things that happen on a map. So if there's a battle, there's the site of the battle is marked down. If a bunch of if there's any sort of betrayers or whatever, which are caused by the evil side drawing, say, army or something like that, it could be that a bunch of dwarves or whatever turn rebel, start following the evil. Like the battle against them could be written on the map.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
How does this I can see this becoming a burden for some groups that don't have artistic people, while I don't necessarily understand how this will influence future gameplay.
I think having stuff to look at and go, this is what's happened so far, this is the story so far. Well, you're trying to come up with a new mission to present. If you're the council leader and you're trying to present a mission like to the group, I think that's going to help, because you've got like everything there to think about, But I can also
just as a reminder of what you've already had. So if you've had the Battle of Grey Falls Pass, you just in front of you on the map, there'll be a little cross sword icon or something with the label, the Battle of Cross Falls Pass. So rather than having to scribble down your notes, you just got a map instead with various details on as a memory prompt of what
that was mostly it, memory aid, that kind of thing.
I have a pitch on that score. What if I'm thinking either aces or even jokers get added to the deck as outcome cards? So like you've gone through one mission, and because of it now there is a dwarven spy, say, so you add the ace of diamonds, or say disaster struck and you couldn't overcome it, so now there's a joker added on who is some servant of the great evil that always goes into the discard pile.
Or I don't know, I think it's like a threat. It's if they get drawn, then everything goes a bit wrong. But if they're in your bet, they count for nothing, even if you win. Something weird like that. I do like the idea of adding them in. Yeah,
it's. I think that's maybe layering too much on top of it for now. But it's an idea to sort of toy with maybe later on. See, maybe after a playtest or two.
Possibly, yeah. Like special rules for special cards.
Yeah, or special rules for legacy play.
Yeah, no, I like that idea.
Me too. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. That we should keep it simple right now and see. Like, I'm not sure the jokers would fit into this because everything else is quite symmetrical. Let's see how it happens.
I could see something like jokers forcing you to reveal your like one of the cards in your hat, like, or some like forcing you to reveal something, maybe, or
perhaps whoever draws a joker is must reveal it immediately. So you cannot hold the Joker and just something that happens.
There's also the idea of the Joker being the token for the person who's the head of the what do you call it, council. Just use it as the marker.
Council leader.
That would also work.
Could be a snap election of a council leader. Is
the leader changes every time a Joker's drawn.
Yeah, like.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
But that's the only time it changes, because it might draw them quite often.
No, we could say that every leader has a term, and every time a Joker appears, it just shakes things up.
Yeah. So I like that. I think that works, and also something changes in the world, or and something happens. Probably something bad for the leader in the fiction, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Or we could, like, how many shuffles do we see, like, in a 2-hour game?
That's a very big question, I think.
Because, like, if they're sparse, we could say that if a Joker appears, the devil gets 3 more cards from the pile or something. Something that empowers the deity.
Yeah. I think even just 1 extra card would be handy. I do like the idea of the Jokers mixing things up, though. I really do.
Perhaps the red Joker is a snap election. Black Joker is the devil gets cards.
I'd probably do it the other way around, but I can see, red's normally bad. But yeah, I can see that. So whenever they're drawn, they go straight out, and something happens, and then the deck.
Yeah, you cannot keep them in your hand, essentially.
You can't keep them. You as soon as you draw them, you play them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay.
So special Joker effect, but we're not currently doing straights and flushes. We're going to look at that later. Is that what we were?
Yeah, call it an optional extra.
Yeah, I think we've got enough with the core mechanics to get something viable.
I just don't know what
without.
we definitely do with them. That's my only worry.
Yeah.
Like I like poker mechanics. I think that's a nice thing. But I also don't know exactly what we do.
I really want to use them, and we can have straights or flushes to have similar things, similar effects like the Jokers, because this would force people to play things that they wouldn't usually play. So if they think straight might appear, they might do something differently.
So something like.
So, for example, a straight could be 50% more points on your victory pile, for example.
Yeah.
Or something like this.
I mean, all the same suit would be interesting if it did some sort of, I don't know, inversion or something.
What I was going to suggest before when I raised the matter of sort of random scenarios was the idea of having a deck of, say, written scenarios. So you pull out a card and it says the evil has forced a volcano out of the earth, sort of thing. But underneath it would have particular poker hands that are empowered. So there's a drive, there's an impetus to build a straight, for example, in one round, or get a flush on the next one.
Kind of like win conditions to defeat that particular
bonus.
I was going to say bonus win conditions, not necessarily an essential.
Yeah, or bonus lose conditions as well.
Exactly, yeah.
But, I like that, but I don't think it fits with what like.
It's a lot of
If
extra
if this
prep.
was going to be a published game, you know,
Yeah.
if this is going to be a published game, hell yeah. If we're doing this as like a one pager for people to hack,
Yeah, it is a lot of
I
extra
don't know.
prep work on the part of the DM.
Yeah, I'm thinking it might be it'd be a really cool thing to do, and it also gets that poker hand mechanic in there. I'm just worried about us getting a game done. Yeah, so we're looking at if every card in the player's sort of play so is either of the same suit or it's a straight, things go weird, right? Is that where we're going?
Yep.
Demetrius?
Yeah, but like again, if this becomes too complicated, the idea doesn't need to be introduced. At least in the first places. So what I would suggest is we play it once, and if we think it needs more variation, we introduce.
Okay.
These.
Right. So this is a sort of back burner. Let's see what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean,
you know, and then
we've got a great core mechanic that needs a lot of numbers to be crunched before we can start like piling on stuff like the poker mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish I hadn't left my deck of cards across the room now. But I'm too lazy to get up. I'm also kind of ensconced in my recording area.
Ensconced is a good word.
Yeah, there's a lot of good words. People make books of them.
Enrichment. Enrichment is a good word.
So speaking of enrichment, so victory points at the end. If the evil wins, the evil wins. If a player gets more resources than the evil has red card points, fate points, or whatever, I'm thinking that that means that player gets to get the epilogue effectively.
Yeah, they're now the dominant race.
Yeah.
To shape the world, blah blah blah.
The humans in most fantasy settings.
Pretty much.
Or the elves in Tolkien.
I don't know. I mean, the elves were kind of a weird one, especially because we're not doing the old races, young races thing. But yeah, you get to start off the next thing effectively. I don't know. I'm thinking timescales. Are we looking at generations here? Is it like every time we change the council leader, we skip a generation or something?
It fits with the whole early Bronze Age thing, where like the old leaders have died, new ones must arise.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, you could keep your character going, especially if you never get voted as leader.
I'll probably leave the precise numbers a little vague, but yeah time moves.
Yeah, keep the numbers vague, but you have a different sort of cast almost. It also means if you kind of get yourself into character of someone and you kind of don't like how this character's developing, you've got a way out. And I think that's also kind of handy. Like if you play one elven guy and he's a bit of a dick and screws over the dwarves a bit, and the dwarves will remember, but you're playing a different guy now. That's kind of it gives you a chance to try rebuild a relationship, like from a plot point of view, and I think that'll be kind of nice. Because I'm fully expecting that people will largely ignore the plot line when they're making decisions, but I don't think it's possible to not be influenced at all. You know?
Yeah, it sort of carries these stereotypes.
Yeah, and if you are genuinely trying to take a different tack, the other thing would be to change your face down victory point card when you change leader. but then you'd have to track what the old one was. What do you guys think about that?
I think this is in the sphere of making this
Too what? Sorry.
too
I thought
complicated.
that was what you were going to say. Yeah, I kind of am inclined to agree with you there. I think it's a nice one.
It does seem like there'd be lots of cool little changes and add-ons and widgets you could add on.
Yeah,
Once you've got the core mechanics in that aren't going to hopefully massively break it.
It's the same with any simple game system. There's so much more you can tack on and build
That's
up.
true, yes.
yeah, very true. Right, so numbers-wise, we have the king gives you bonuses if you win, right? So you get an extra victory point, or possibly 2 victory points if you win and you've played a card of that suit. Whether it would get you victory points normally or not, because red cards, I'm thinking they don't take points off, but they also don't add anything on. What do you think?
So they're blank.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could work.
So if you win a red card, you might have to play a red card, but
If they don't remove points, then every mission is going to be a success if there's at least one black card.
Well, no, they remove points from the mission success, but not from your victory points if they're your bet.
Okay.
Whereas I'm thinking black cards don't add to the evil's power if they're on the discard pile, but they do add to but red cards do.
I like this.
So the king is when you win a card of that suit, you gain a number of extra victory points over what you normally get. Yeah?
Yeah, we can start with +1 and see if the numbers work.
Yeah. Start with +1, right? Queen is when the evil takes a card of that color, of that suit, sorry, because you don't get as much control over that, and they'll be pulling out 1 or 2 cards each time. You can you can take a victory point, right?
Okay.
And now what do we do for the jack? What were we saying?
We still like the idea of if the entire mission fails, the jack gets, say, just the +1.
Oh, so jacks get so if you bet a card of that color and lose, you get a point.
Yeah, that works nicely. I also feel like if we're going that the jacks are traitors for the entire game, they should be renamed Viziers.
We're not finding victory points to whoever says Jack by accident. That's too harsh. It's like Jack. Oh crap!
Depends who's GMing. If it was me, I would. I'm a terrible human being.
So we've got the Vizier
expansion rule,
and that's what they do. Are we going to shuffle the face cards back in so that you can draw them during play?
The remaining face cards.
So the other, we're going to have some remaining face cards, Jack, Kings, Queens, right? Because we've got 12 of them, and actually no, if we've got 12 of them, I think they should just the ones that are discarded should be put face up, so we know what's on the table and what's not. But we don't know who's got what.
Yeah. So you know what's
we know
there,
there's
but not how it's
we know there's a
allocated.
Jack of Clubs there somewhere, but we don't know where.
I would strongly suggest that we discard them face down because it's a new world and we arrive with no preconceptions of what's happening.
Yes. Okay. So we the ones that aren't used. Also, when you trigger one, we're going to need to know what that card is. So if you have a king that's face down and you trigger it, I'm thinking you put the king back and draw a fresh one, which could be the same king again, but it's not necessarily. What do you think?
It could be a case that every single mission you're drawing a new roll.
I'd rather not do it every time, to be honest.
Mm.
Only when it becomes known what you've done.
Oh, okay, I see.
Because I think that gives you more character because you've got stuff to aim for. And it gives people a chance to guess what you're aiming for as well.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So people, if you've had that face down queen for ages, and you've just been discarding these particular cards, people might be like, "Oh, I reckon they're discarding a lot of. They seem to be discarding a lot of low clubs instead of putting them in the piles. Maybe they've got a queen, that kind of thing."
Yeah.
The other thing, are people cool with that?
I think we can keep them throughout, like for a single game.
I'm thinking you keep your face up one, but the problem is once you've used your face down one, it's going to be obvious what you've got.
Yeah, and you keep going until a jack appears.
Not quite sure what you mean.
No, not a jack, a joker. Sorry.
I'm not sure. Let's go with the Joker one for now. And yeah, let's go. What do the other two of you think? Because I think Demetrius and I have got different opinions on this, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
Are you thinking of keeping like each player has a separate face card pile for themselves?
Me or Demetrius?
You, Dave.
Okay, what I'm thinking is at the beginning you have one face card that is face up, right?
Yeah.
That's your known one. That's the character of your race all the way through, right?
Yeah.
You also have a face down one. When your face down one gets you a victory point, you need to claim it, right? Otherwise, what's the point? It's going to be hard to backdate all this stuff without having big piles of cards, which means we've got a time limit on the game.
Yeah.
Because if you actually physically claim cards,
run out.
I mean, like once you've started declaring victory points, if people know that you're, for example, a jack or a queen, it's going to change how they behave around you. So I think the idea of once you've claimed a victory point, changing your role,
changing the hidden
role, yeah, that's going to be the best option. Yeah.
Well, my suggestion is that we keep it even if others have found out. But again, I'm just suggesting.
But only till a joker's drawn, and it's jokers that change stuff up.
Yes,
because that's when people get replaced as heads, right? As like representatives of civilization. I like that.
Possibly
sometimes.
So basically, you get a new character.
Yeah, because I like people investing on understanding other players.
Yes. I do. The problem is, like, I'm genuinely unsure which one would be best.
We can try both.
I think we'll go with yours. I kind of really see where you're going on that. And I think it's pretty cool, especially if we go. This is a different this is a different character now. Those jokers shake up the timeline, don't they?
Yeah.
So someone draws a joker, you go, right, well, the treacherous guy who was running that red jack is now gone.
Queen.
Well, they're now gone. So their grandson takes over as headman, and they've got a different card. You know?
Yeah, that's my idea. So that this way, if someone shows the face down card, you develop a sentiment towards them.
Yeah,
and
I think that's better for the fiction. Yeah, we'll find out, but I think you've got a really good point there. Awesome. So I think we've pretty much got a solid design of how we kind of create things. I don't think there's much we're going to have to go back to and revisit right now. I think we've got everything pretty solid. Do people agree?
I think so, yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, I agree as well.
Yeah, I think a lot's just going to come down to how it actually handles in practice.
Okay, so what are people excited about this game? You know, what are you looking forward to?
I really like the fact that we're using a card mechanic that's not a skill resolution mechanic. I really like this because most people, most RPGs that use cards, use them for instead of dice.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that it drives gameplay in a different way.
Cool.
I really want to try my hand at building a story out of the resolution cards and like really sort of playing with what comes out of the actual voting, the scoring.
Cool.
Yeah, the type of narrative that comes out of this is going to be quite interesting to see because it's a combination. I always quite like things where PvP, but you don't get knocked out early and there is some cooperative stuff, so you don't just lose. You still have something to operate on.
I'm kind of really looking forward to this whole thing falling apart and the evil winning, which we can't get on, which I think is probably going to happen.
Good odds of that.
Cool. Right. Normally, this would be the point where we appoint our GM, but seeing as this is a GM-less game, we don't have to do that. So we're going to do the whole plug your stuff segment and then sign off. So does anyone have anything they particularly like to plug? Dimitris?
No, not really. I'm actually quite stable at this point. Yeah.
So you're not looking for work then at the moment?
No. I'm quite fine. So if anyone wants more time to plug stuff, please go ahead.
Chris, anything?
I don't have a blog, although I am looking through it and realizing the formatting is terrible.
Do you need a graphic designer to take a look at it?
Wink, wink. Not judge.
Need to actually just do consistent damn fonts between different posts. But that's Mejiros, which is mejiros.blogspot.com. And yeah, so if there's anyone willing to read that that's not me, that would be appreciated.
Cool. Joe?
I'll plug Geek Out Southwest again. It's a daily blog of just sort of general geek culture stuff. For the Shropshire DM, there's nothing I can talk about straight away, but if people find the Shropshire Dungeon Master on Facebook, you'll see it as it comes out. There's some interesting stuff in the works.
Cool. And I've got nothing particular to plug apart from the fact that I run convention games and events. And if you want me to run stage stuff or games at your event, let me know and I'll see if I can pack it into my schedule, which is looking a bit mental at the moment. Right, that's all from this episode. I hope you'll join us next time for when we're playing Primordia on Roll on the Adventure. Woo! Goodbye!
Goodbye!